At exactly 14:17 on a rainy April afternoon, the monarch's composure cracked. A single tear pools improbably against the crimson velvet of his robe. Then, a whisper barely audible as if from the walls themselves. It ends only once, the crown passes. He opens his mouth. No words, just one line. The new king. This is where we begin. But how did it come to this? To understand the moment, we have to rewind. King Charles sits alone, still, deliberate. On the desk, a leather-bound file marked in gold foil. Operation Heirloom. He opens it. Inside, sealed protocols, succession frameworks, red-stamped documents, discretion essential. Inscription reads, "To William, when the time comes." Behind closed doors, the future was already being written, not with fanfare, but with whispers. Aides murmur just outside the room. Father and son, the weight of centuries. He won't say it, but he's preparing. William stands across from Charles. Quiet, respectful, a half smile. William, you'll wear it better. Charles nods, slowly. I hope you never have to. He clasps the edge of the desk. The crown is not just gold, it's a generational burden. It doesn't shine, it weighs. This isn't a decision. It's a slow surrender. A farewell planned, but not yet spoken. But someone was watching, someone who saw more than the press ever did. Codename Argyle, an aide with access few ever imagined, and doubts no one saw coming. A voice, Argyle's, and whispers. At 14:25 today, I submitted the final draft, the new king title, Emotion and Protocol Report. Highlighted memo. King's emotional state, classified as potentially unstable. Ceremonial risk, uncontrolled public emotion. Psychological concern, not an heir transferring power, a father losing. The palace never acknowledged emotion. Argyle documented it. A final page is shown, just 6 words. What breaks may still be sacred. But Argyle didn't just file paperwork, he started a forensic storm. The tremor began behind stone walls, but it didn't stay there. The monarchy is built on rhythm, ritual, and restraint, but now the data whispered a different truth. This wasn't hearsay, it was measurable, mapped, documented. And then, a facade wasn't failing, it was fracturing. But what came next, no protocol prepared for. No advisors, no protocol, just a father and a son. Charles, softly. This, my final gift, the title, I give you the new king. William, quiet. Father, you may carry it better, but know this, it's yours now. William places a hand on his father's shoulder. Charles's voice breaks slightly. God save the king, but I still need my son. What passed wasn't just power, it was grief, permission, and a legacy. But the private handover couldn't stay private. The world was watching and waiting to erupt. King in tears, a nation divided? Crown cracks? Breakdown or breakthrough? He wept, on record, in ritual. This is unprecedented. A monarchy undone by emotion. Or if it may be finally made human. King Charles breaks. Emotional monarchy. Wills rising. Past the crown. Public fascination turned viral storm. Every angle dissected, every whisper magnified. Palace response. A moment of humanity, no constitutional impact. But the denial can't catch up. The image, the tears, is now unstoppable. The monarchy didn't release a statement. It lost control of the narrative. And once the script breaks, the world writes its own. A monarch showed emotion. Now the system must respond. The monarch's emotional flash, does it undermine decorum? Succession remains valid. The ceremony holds, the title stands. Display noted but immaterial. Judgment is rendered. Title grant valid. No breach of duty. The monarchy remains intact. The crown endures. But a whisper lingers in the silence. Is fracture now permissible? The law ruled it safe. But the people hadn't spoken yet. The rituals resumed, the robes were worn, but something had changed. Flowers. Handwritten notes. God bless your tears. You made the crown human. Elderly woman holds tissue with royal crest. A child's drawing of a crown with a teardrop. He didn't lose dignity, he gained dimension. The people didn't rebel. They responded. Not with outrage, but with recognition. In breaking, he restored faith. The monarchy survived. Because this time, it wept. A king is more than a symbol. A father is always flawed. His tears? The crown's true weight, finally unmasked. A hush. Footsteps echo through the corridor. This moment cracked open centuries of silence. What follows is not just succession. It's redemption. The handwriting is unmistakable, his father's, his future. The note inside reads, I never wanted you to carry this like I did. But I never doubted you'd carry it better. William lowers the letter. His hands not trembling. Just still. Behind him, the door creaks. A voice barely above a whisper. Are you ready to speak? He doesn't answer. Because this isn't a family moment anymore. This is constitutional handover. And it's no longer private. The title isn't his yet, but the weight already is. Outside, the world wasn't silent. It was shouting, conflicted, demanding something he wasn't ready to give. He wept, and so did we. A king doesn't cry, period. It was human. It was too human. Tears of the crown, now what? William remains silent, but the people are loud. Hashtags trend. Crying king. Pass the crown. Will's rising. A monarch must master himself, or he'll be mastered by doubt. It's no longer just about Charles. It's about William. And the public isn't watching anymore, they're deciding. No interviews, no public statements, no sightings. Just one leak whispered by a senior aide. The prince is reflecting. The decision to speak is not his alone. It's part of a shared legacy. Visibility of empathy must not erode strength. Calibrated humanity required. He stares at the title page. The new king, not king now, but king next. His silence isn't absence, it's architecture. Because sometimes the loudest message is the one he doesn't speak. But silence in the palace never lasts, and what leaks next cracks everything open. A classified report, written, buried, then released. Memo title. High EQ noted but untested under symbolic collapse. Avoid unscripted emotional engagements in public. Control optics around emotional inheritance. Is William too soft for the crown? Is this monarchy now a therapy couch? How many tears is too many for a king? The palace issues no comment. But one insider does. This didn't come from outside. It came from inside the blue drawing room. A calculated betrayal. A tightening noose. And the heir's silenced and is no longer safe. Summoned only twice in 70 years, once after Diana. Now again. We're balancing grief and governance. If he's not steel, he's sand. The crown does not weep, the man may, but the crown cannot. A slide is presented. Projected dip in public approval if William appears emotional again within 10 days, 14%. Debate flares. One advisor proposes. Delay the formal transition ceremony. Another interjects. Every hour of silence sounds like fear. No resolution. Just a countdown. William now has 72 hours to decide, lead with heart or bury it. But by the time dawn breaks, the decision may already be made for him. It was not a press release. Not a proclamation. Just a letter from father to son. Inside, I trust you'll know when. But the world doesn't wait. Speak. 3 words underlined. Don't delay duty. His children sleep upstairs. He stares into the hearth, his reflection in the glass flickering. Not just a son. Not just a prince. A sovereign in waiting. Deciding whether to show emotion or suppress it. This isn't ceremony. It's survival. Final frame, William's silhouette against firelight. By sunrise, the world will have its answer. William enters, alone, no regalia, no insignia, just a black suit. He sits behind the Queen Anne desk, his eyes find the camera. He clears his throat. There comes a time when duty and feeling meet not in conflict, but in truth. I have watched a father walk with grace into history, and yes, he wept. I would have wept too. He doesn't blink. That is not weakness. It is a signal that the next crown must not be colder, only steadier. He pauses again, then delivers the line the world was waiting for. If it be the will of the crown and the people, I accept the title. New king. A breath, and I will carry it with heart. The monarchy just blinked, and the world saw it. But in the time it took to exhale, the old guard started plotting their return. William accepts with heart. The guardian, empathetic crown ascends. But not everyone celebrates. The Daily Mail. Heir or therapist? Optics soft. Dangerous precedent. The crown doesn't cry or counsel. Social media splits. With heart, trending in 34 countries. Not my king, trending 20 minutes later. The nation didn't watch a speech. They watched a system shift. Some saw strength, others saw surrender. A new kind of monarchy for a therapy era. But inside the palace, unease. The old guard didn't script this. And now they're not just worried, they're ready to fight back. A restricted meeting is called. Topic, how to contain sincerity. Agenda header on screen. Protocol response to empathic succession speech. This cannot become precedent. Future heirs must not feel obligated to share emotional process. Memo drafted mid-meeting. Recommendation, limit heir statements to ceremonial prose. Review emotional lexicon for public-facing engagements. Monarchical overhumanization risk. But the walls aren't as solid as they think. A junior aide records audio that leaks. Clip plays over black screen. Let him speak, for once they listened. Do we not want a crown that breathes? By noon, that quote trends globally. The palace is no longer defending tradition. It's defending itself from itself. But what if the rebellion wasn't just moral? What if it had a name? They're purging honesty. The mole wasn't foreign, wasn't a stranger. She'd been there all along. Codename Graybell. Title, Senior Communications Liaison. Years of service, 10. Motivation, the public deserved the truth. Speech draft leak confirmed. Empathy memo leak confirmed. Audio recording confirmed. She's escorted out quietly. But nothing about it stays quiet. By 1402, Greybell trends number 1 in the UK. A day later, a secret interview surfaces. Greybell seated in a park, unofficial, unapologetic. If telling the truth about feeling is disloyal, then perhaps the institution no longer deserves silence. The monarchy's mask wasn't torn off. It was peeled deliberately, and now the world is watching the skin underneath. William doesn't go on air. He doesn't assemble a court. He writes one sentence that shifts everything. Statement appears on screen line by line. I did not authorize leaks, but I will not condemn those who serve truth. Transparency is not treason. News coverage erupts. William won't condemn whistleblower. Inside the firm, panic. Leaked internal advisory surfaces. If Prince William supports internal dissenters, the chain of institutional loyalty may irreparably weaken. But the public leans in. The institution wanted containment. He gave them conscience. And yet, the most powerful moment hadn't been spoken. It had only just begun. Turns to his valet. He spoke better than I ever could. No fanfare. No procession. Just a father, relieved. The crown was never just a symbol. It was silence. It was sacrifice. And now, perhaps it's speech. Final image, William on a distant balcony. Alone, calm. A king not crowned by ceremony, but by voice. A single tear had crossed borders. Now a voice was echoing through capitals. CNN. The crown cracks. William's emotional reign begins. France 24. Un roi vulnérable, le prince qui pleure. Australia's ABC. The new king era, softer or weaker? Empathy is not a liability in a constitutional monarch, it's an asset. But in former colonies, skepticism sharpens. He cries now, but not for us. Where were those tears for empire? The New York Times headline scrolls across screen. A crown of conscience or convenience? The monarchy's shift gained applause, but also awakened ghosts. The crown was visible again, but now so were its shadows. And in those shadows, something darker was stirring. They called it Project Marrow, because bones hold the body up, even when the heart fails. Inside the folder, contingency plans for monarchical correction. Mission: reframe the monarchy's emotional drift. Correct the course without direct rebellion. Emotion invites Parliament to dilute symbolic authority. A visibly vulnerable monarch risks optic seepage into policy. Plan B: petition for ceremonial delay. Leverage ecclesiastical veto doctrine if necessary. One chilling line underlined 3 times. A king may love, but he must never be loved for his weeping. They didn't want to remove William. They wanted to freeze him, reframe him, rein him in. Not a coup. A correction. Funded, legal, ready, rare, formal, cloaked. The Crown Council meets, not to plan a coronation, but to question a future. Impact of emotional speech on air legitimacy. Lord Chatham. We are not Sweden. The monarchy must not soften into theater. Lady Elsinore, calm cutting. Authenticity is not weakness. You can't ceremonialize grief, it erupts. Minutes note 1 phrase. Unprecedented generational divide. Then the unexpected. William enters, unannounced, no aides, no protocol. He walks to the center. You want strength? Look outside the gates. The people didn't ask for stone. They asked for spine. He places a letter on the table. Title: Provisional Succession Acceptance Statement, reaffirmed. I won't perform royalty. I'll inherit it on my terms. The chamber froze. Not in defiance, in disbelief. He leaves, and they are left with nothing but his echo. But William wasn't done. Next came the ceremony he was never meant to alter. This wasn't a coronation, but it was a test. Tradition demands no deviation from script, no acknowledgement of controversy, no cracks in decorum. William arrives in full regalia, face calm, shoulders square. The Archbishop intones, "Do you swear to uphold the realm without fear or favor? Without tears or tremor?" "I do." With both duty and conscience. 1 word, 1 line. Not rebellion or definition. Headlines explode that evening. William breaks script again. The oath heard round the realm. Tradition stood, but it wobbled, and the world noticed. The oath was given, but behind closed doors came the warning. The Archbishop, measured but stern. Improvised monarchs make unstable dynasties. William even. So do silent ones. The Archbishop opens a folder. Inside, the original oath script. You deviated, they cheered. Don't mistake applause for legitimacy. He holds out the parchment. William doesn't read it. He folds it, puts it in a drawer, then let the past blink first. He didn't argue. He didn't retreat, but neither did the church. The monarchy was in motion, but not everyone was following. And the cracks, once hidden, were finally starting to show. The monarchy has always held its fractures. But tonight, one was visible. Not shattered, but no longer whole. Inside, William kneels, alone, no orb, no crown, just silence. He does not pray. He reflects. He carries no sword, no scroll, only consequence. In their eyes, not reverence, not rebellion. Something else. Recognition. Secured since 1985, accessed by only 3 keys. Codenamed Torchlight. Inside, a room untouched by time, dust motes, file cabinets. A single drawer, see precedents. Filed during Charles's early Prince of Wales years. Its purpose, not just tradition, but sterilization. Effective suppression framework to maintain royal projection amid increasing public expectation of emotional transparency. All effective anomalies to be neutralized through scripted engagements. Emotional moments to be edited from public broadcast using delay buffer. Emotional sterilization is institutional defense. This wasn't accidental restraint. It was engineered silence. And someone is leaking it. By nightfall, the first file hits the press. A full copy of the Torchlight file. A USB stick labeled Proof of Suppression. A handwritten note. Let them see how much was hidden to protect the image of strength. Charles's red-rimmed eyes. William's shaking voice. Revoiced post-process. Emotion wasn't absent. It was deleted. It edited it. In real time. Not censorship. Betrayal. It wasn't just restraint. It was redaction. The monarchy's most sacred moment of grief was censored. We now know Charles's composure wasn't natural. It was scripted. If grief was airbrushed, what else was? Grief engineered? Torchlight, the crown's coldest file. Where were their tears? Inside Clarence House? Silence. But leaked voice memo from an insider tells another story. He whispered, I followed that damn file. I let them mute me. Charles isn't furious about the leak. He's furious at the system that made the file necessary. He calls for a review of historic royal communication policies. But it's too late. Public perception has shifted. The crown isn't ironclad anymore. It's scaffolding. And it's crumbling. But for William, this wasn't just policy. It was personal. He stares at the documents, the broadcast logs, the edits, his own voice, altered. He calls his chief of staff. Who created this? The answer takes 6 seconds. Your father. March 14th, 1981. He signed it. In the hallway, a soft voice. Charlotte. Are you okay, Daddy? William kneels. I will be. We all will be. But not if we keep hiding. He knew what he had to do. Not for tradition. Not for legacy. But for the child in the hallway and the one he once was. And for the first time in his life, William stops protecting the institution and starts preparing to confront it. No advance notice. No press preview. Only a nation waiting. William, direct to camera. My father lived through a system designed to protect strength by silencing sorrow. That system had a name, Torchlight. He breathes, no cue cards. To those who watched the funeral of a mother and wondered why we didn't cry, we did. We were just edited out. That policy ends with me. He introduces the Crown Transparency Charter. Future royal events will no longer be delayed or filtered for emotional content. Royal communications to remain unedited in moments of national significance. Our strength isn't in hiding tears. It's in showing we survived them. And then silence. Until Charles enters frame. He says nothing, just places a hand on William's shoulder. Then speaks. It should have ended with me. But I'm proud it ends with you. But one voice still hadn't spoken. I never needed a palace. I just needed my father's voice. Attached image, Charles and Jonathan Dane. Together, for the first time, no crowns, no handlers. Just 2 men on a bench, smiling. To William, you could have ignored me. You didn't. That's the mark of a real heir. The monarchy once erased blood. Now it bleeds honesty. For the first time in royal history, a scandal ends not with silence, but reconciliation. Madam Speaker, I submit the need for an emergency inquiry to determine whether recent emotional disclosures from the heir apparent threaten the constitutional neutrality of the monarchy. It was no longer tradition under fire. It was succession on trial. Opposition leader Dame Shivani Kaur responds, transparency is not treason. Vulnerability is not violation. But Penrose is armed. By 1400, he tables the motion. The Crown Stability Assessment Bill, subclause buried inside, symbolic misconduct clause, never used, rarely discussed, now weaponized. It doesn't name William. It doesn't have to. But what if the law didn't need to name him to end him? The clause reads plainly, should an heir apparent engage in acts or expressions that compromise symbolic impartiality, Parliament may recommend deferral, review, or regression of title. It's vague, but if empathy is framed as partiality, it's in play. Can a prince be too honest? Clause could strip William of title. The Crown's newest risk, conscience. Tightened circles, sleepless aides, leaked email. This is emotional suppression by statute. They're trying to regulate sincerity. Social media erupts. Clause war. Let him feel. Heirs don't have to be stoned. But inside the firm, not all oppose it. Some royal insiders quietly support the clause. Not because they reject William, but because they fear what comes after him. She had been silent through the fall, the fracture, and the firestorm. Until now. That evening, 20 sharp, Camilla appears. Not in Buckingham, not in pearls, in front of a fireplace. For decades, my husband was taught to seal pain behind velvet. We buried emotion to preserve image. We paid in silence. But the realm does not need porcelain figures. It needs truth. William speaks that truth. And I will not see him punished for it. Her final line lands like thunder. To regulate sincerities is to outlaw healing. It wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a redefinition. Within 24 hours, 38 MPs retract support for the bill. The clause becomes political napalm. But Penrose doesn't blink. He pushes for a tribunal. Not a law. A judgment. Inside Westminster's most sacred room. Not all trials have gavels. Some have mirrors. They called it the Image Tribunal. Its purpose, not to define the monarchy, but what the monarchy must be seen to be. William testifies. His words leak hours later. Posted in full, read by millions. I was not performing grief. I was refusing to deny it. If that disqualifies me, then perhaps the image was never real. A Crown advisor counters, the monarchy isn't required to feel. It is required to endure. William doesn't raise his voice. He just says, endurance without emotion is not nobility. It's pathology. That quote won the day, but it terrified the room. One leaked committee note reads, he didn't flinch. That scares them more than if he had. Charles dials Penrose, a rare direct appeal. You do this, you fracture the crown for good. Penrose responds, he fractured it himself. He restored what I buried. I wept once, and was told never again. He wept, and you wrote legislation. Penrose hangs up, but Charles isn't done. Charles steps forward, alone, no family, no handlers, just monarchy in its rawest form. The monarchy is not perfect. But if honesty is punished, the institution fails. Then the shock. I hereby revoke my support of the clause's application. If passed, I will not endorse it. Not law, but royal will, and enough to tilt the scale. And now, all that remained was the vote. Motion to activate symbolic misconduct clause. He bled. They tried to bind him in stone. We saw his heart, and they called it treason. Later that night, William appears briefly on the Buckingham Palace balcony. No speech, no anthem. He simply mouths, thank you. I am the blood of the crown, and I never relinquished the claim. New King false lineage. Attached a photograph, 2 children, one unmistakably young Charles, the other unfamiliar but eerily similar. His name was Jonathan Dane. Illegitimate. Unacknowledged. Exiled. Hidden. Minutes later, a second tweet lands. DNA sealed. Documented. Buried. Until now. The press detonates. He gives one interview, Le Monde, not British media. I don't want the throne, but the lie? It needs to be admitted. He didn't seek power. He demanded truth. And the kingdom, once united around sincerity, now stared down the barrel of blood. But tweets weren't enough. There was a file, a royal one. He was born February 1975. Mother titled Identity Redacted. Paternity test match 99.74%. Inside, a line item ledger. Custodial silence payment authorized 6.2 million. Public disclosure would undermine succession clarity. Emotional and political risk unmanageable. A handwritten note scanned on screen. I knew. I obeyed. Not with pride, with fear. It wasn't scandal. It was suppression. A counterpart to Torchlight. Its purpose: erase illegitimacy by institutional omission. William reads the file. Silence, then one question. Did he ever ask to be part of this? Yes, once, 1996. Denied. On my orders. The crown had survived emotion, but could it survive forgotten blood? The public wasn't angry. They were stunned. Dane stays silent, no press run, just a final post. I never wanted a throne. Just my name and my father's word. Old school photos surface, a lonely teenager, a shadow behind a dynasty. BBC panels debate. He doesn't threaten succession, he questions morality. Commentator adds, Charles obeyed tradition, but William might defy it. Hashtag split the internet. Glass blood truth. Monarchy lied. Not the new king. You say blood is sacred. Then honor all of it. The monarchy isn't in crisis. It's in correction. And the next move belongs to William William watches the BBC, remote in hand. He dials. Charles answers. William, we can't hide this. I buried that file to protect you. I'll take the shame. William, then take it publicly. Kate, if you speak, you lose control of the story. William, but I keep control of the truth. She pauses, then nods. Then do it. Let history blink first. Royal broadcast, all networks interrupt programming. Charles begins. I was told to deny. And I did. Not because I didn't believe, but because I wasn't brave enough. A pause. Jonathan Dane is my son. He was wronged. Not by fate, but by me. He is not a threat to my role, but he is a truth long denied. The monarchy claims to embody legacy. That means telling the whole story, not just the polished version. William continues. We restore trust not with ceremony, but with confession. They announce a formal acknowledgement of paternity, a personal apology from the crown, a trust established for Jonathan's legacy and legal protection. The monarchy didn't bend to pressure. It bent to truth. Jonathan Dane posts his final message. I never needed a palace. I just needed my father's voice. Attached, a photo, the first of him and Charles together. Smiling, no crown, no handlers, just peace. Then to William, you could have ignored me. You didn't. That's the mark of a real heir. Social media doesn't argue. It feels, commentators don't analyze. They pause. For the first time in royal history, a scandal didn't end in silence. It ended in reconciliation. The code means one thing. The sovereign is down. Charles collapsed at 0414, no warning, no camera. Paramedics are flown in under code silence, staff stripped of phones, curtains drawn. Acute myocardial infarction. In plain terms, a heart attack, massive, sudden, potentially fatal. William in Norfolk, 0439, he picks up on the first ring. He doesn't ask for details. He only asks, is he breathing? But to the public? Nothing. Not yet. For 10 hours, Britain had no king and didn't know. Flight trackers notice strange movements. Reporters whisper about medical noise near Windsor. But the palace, dead quiet. Where is the king? Palace blackout. William now? By 1604, the dam breaks. Official statement. His Majesty experienced a cardiovascular episode. He is under care, conscious, and stable. No further comment. But inside sources leak the truth. Conscious, ill on oxygen. Stable, ill sedated. No comment, ill panic. William is told to prepare a provisional address, just in case. Then comes the file. A black leather folder is placed in the palace war room. Operation Rainveil. Provisional accession. Accelerated ascension protocol. Voiceover. The crown is near, not past, but hovering. Kensington Palace North Wing secure chamber. Dim lights, one long table, a folder, Operation Rainveil. 3 aides, 2 constitutional lawyers, 1 royal physician. The mood? Like reading someone their own autopsy, in advance. They begin. If the sovereign becomes medically incapacitated for more than 48 hours. William cuts in. I know the clause. He doesn't blink. They slide a letter across the table. William stares, doesn't touch it. Kate finds him an hour later, alone at the balcony. He's not gone yet, she says. William answers, no, but I can feel the crown already tightening. A lone antique mirror, cracked slightly on the edge, once owned by Edward VIII. The last time this mirror reflected a king in doubt. He abdicated. Now it's William. He stands in silence, letter of assumption in hand. He rehearses. I accept with humility the responsibility entrusted. He stops, voice breaks. He folds the letter, slowly, carefully. He does not sign it. Charlotte enters. Will Grandpa be okay? William kneels. I hope so. But we have to be ready to be strong. She frowns. Even when you don't want to be? He smiles barely. Especially then. No one has said anything official since stable. But Britain knows. Church bells toll. Not death knells, but slow, mournful. Just in case. BBC goes into royal standby mode. Newsreaders wear black. Sky News says it out loud by accident. The king was, well, we wait. Floral tributes pile up. One child writes, I love you, Charles, don't go yet. In polling booths and living rooms, if he falls. Rainveil rising. William ready. But inside the palace, William issues a command. No proclamation. Not unless his heart stops. He won't wear the crown until it has no pulse, even if it's pressing against his back. But inside the palace, William issues a command. No proclamation, not unless his heart stops. He won't preempt death with duty. Not yet. But inside the palace, William issues a command. No proclamation, not unless his heart stops. The world spins, headlines burn, whispers grow, but the sun waits. Not out of hesitation, but out of honor. Because the crown cannot be claimed until the heartbeat behind it fades. And for now, it still beats.